Welcome to the video series on Excel. We're doing Microsoft Excel, and this is a spreadsheet software that you can use to do several things, including calculations and organizing your data and summarizing it and charting. Excel Chapter 1, and this is the book. And for this chapter, we're going to be creating this worksheet. It's a worksheet by Bob Gleeman, and he's trying to set up his worksheet in such a way that he can calculate his monthly budget based on his income and expenses. And so we're going to start editing and inserting data into this worksheet, and you learn quite a few things. So at the end of it, your worksheet should kind of look like this. So let's begin. We're going to start by opening Microsoft Excel, and we're going to open a blank workbook. Now this blank workbook has several features we're going to point out, and let's look around at it. You will notice that for Excel you'll find that there are an insert function button, there's a cancel button, and an enter button. So here's cancel and here's enter. This long box you're looking at here is the formula bar. Now for Excel you'll find that you have letters, that's A, but it ends way down at XFD, and to get there you'll have to hold the control key and use the right arrow key, and you'll get to the 16,384th column. XFD is the very last one, and to get back, control and the left arrow key will take you back to the beginning where A1 is. Also, you'll notice that it's numbered, so you have column headings which are lettered, and you have row headings which are numbered, and that row heading starts at 1 and it ends way down at 1,048,576, and to get there, control and the down arrow key will take you to that very last cell, and control and the up arrow will take you back to the beginning. So Excel opens this new workbook. It has one worksheet in it, and this is the sheet tab, and you're looking at the button beside it, which is the new sheet button. Now let's look up a little bit at this box here. It's called the name box, and it's pretty much there as its name implies to to give the name of the cell. But it has other uses, and you'll see them in an upcoming chapter. So let's begin by creating this new worksheet. The title for this worksheet is Personal Budget Worksheet. Personal Budget Worksheet. And what you're looking at here is, it seems that the content is spilling over into columns B and C, and that's only the case because columns B and C, the adjacent cells are empty, so the software pretty much spills it over. But had they not been empty, it would seem as if they're cut off, but the content is actually still there. I'm going to hit enter, and you'll notice that we move down to the next cell. And if I click in B1, it's empty. How do I know it's empty? Look up in the formula bar. There's nothing going on in there. And the same thing for C1. But if I click in A1, you will see the entire name, budget, personal budget worksheet, listed there. So in A2, the subtitle is monthly estimates. Now there's a difference between the enter key that you're pressing on your keyboard and the enter which is sitting here beside the insert function box. Now when you hit enter on your keyboard, it simply keeps the entry and moves on to the next cell. But if you use the enter button, which is sitting beside the formula bar, and you click on it, it keeps the entry and it remains in that current cell. Now if you have to fix errors, 3 ways you can do so. Because if you notice, Excel does not flag down any of your incorrectly spelled words, as you may notice in the Word software. But I have an error here. I'm missing the N in monthly. I have monthly. How do I fix this? I either could go up to the formula bar. I've clicked the cell, yes. I go up to the formula bar and click beside the O and put in the N where it belongs. Or I could double click in the cell and do a similar thing there, put in, make the change. And you should also be able to press the F2 function key on your keyboard, and it also brings up your option to open the cell for editing. So let's keep going. We're going to put in some headings. And first you'll see income. And I'm hitting enter, so I'm pretty much going down with these headings, followed by wages, followed by dividends, followed by total. Then we're leaving a space in row number 7. I'm going down to row number 8 and type in expenses. Next cell, you'll see rent, followed by food, followed by tuition, followed by books, followed by entertainment. And I've got to fix that one, entertainment, empty. Following it, you'll find car payment, then gas, then miscellaneous, and then total. And skip row number 18 and go to row number 19, and in A19 you'll type net. Now we'll keep going with the headings. Back up at B3, we're going to put in the month of January here. And the beauty about this software is that there's a nifty tool that we're going to use to fill in the rest of the months. We don't have to type February, March, April to December. Look at the cell that has January in it. And this goes for any cell, because you're clicking around, you'll see. There's a little square hanging on there. When you point to it, this little square located at the bottom right corner of the cell is called the fill handle. And that says FILL handle. That's the name of the button that we're working on, fill handle. Now this fill handle, when you point to it, you get a little black plus sign. Well, that's what it looks like. And you're going to drag, and you're looking at the screen tip, and you are going to stop at December, which is somewhere in column M. And beside December, you can type total. And similarly, you can go down to expenses and do the same thing. You could have copied and pasted, but just doing this for emphasis. Point to the little black square called the fill handle, and once you get your mouse pointer looking at like this black plus sign, you're going to drag your mouse all the way across to column M, stops at December, and type total here. Now let's give you a bit of tip about what the fill handle can do for you as well, including the months of the year. You can get the days of the week too, and doesn't even have to start from Sunday. If I put Tuesday in here and I use that fill handle, it works in both ways. It's going to pretty much sequentially fill back in or fill in the days of the week. It also works for things like ordinals. So if I put 1st here as in first, I should be able to get second, third, fourth, and fifth. And you can number a series as well, 1, 2, 3, for example. And if you wanted to continue numbering, you have to highlight that set, point to the fill handle, and it will continue to number for you. You can also include the words or words in addition to the numbers. So if I put series 1, it should generate series 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for me. So this is a very nifty tool, and you'll notice other things that the fill handle will do for you. So let's move back to our worksheet. Now that we've entered the row titles and column titles, we're going to enter some numbers. And this worksheet for the wages, you're going to put $1,029. Now, Bob Gleeman, who is the one whose worksheet we're creating here, is earning this pretty much every month for the rest of the year. So we're going to use the fill handle and copy that across to December, and we can move down to dividends. Seems quite easy, isn't it? Save yourself some trouble. Use that fill handle. The dividends in the month of January, he earns $4,000, and that's $4,000 0.75, $4,000.75. He earns it in January as well as September $4,000.75. Now we're going to fill in the rest of it with zeros because he earns nothing. I'm going to use the fill handle there too. He earns nothing in these other months except for what he gets in January and September. So let's move down to the rent. He pays $400.89 for his rent, and that's pretty much every day, every month for the rest of the year. For his food, he has budgeted $300, not 3,300, and that's every month for the rest of the year. So we're copying those over. For his tuition, he's paying $1,500 only in January, and again sometime in August, 1,500. So we fill in the rest with zeros. We'll fill in the rest with zeros. Okay, for his books, he is budgeting $500 for that for January as well as for September. So they coincide pretty much with the time he pays his tuition. So let's copy the rest of these zeros in because he's not spending any other money on books for the rest of the year. For entertainment, he's pretty much putting aside $100 every month, and that's for the rest of the year. And for car payments, 154.79, and that he pays consistently for the rest of the year. For his gas, he's putting aside $100, and I'm going to copy that across. But the exception of these 3 months, the months of May, June, and July, he's dedicating $150 instead. So change the numbers in from 100 to 150 for the month of May in F15, G16, F15, G15, and H15. All three should have 150 instead of 100. So it seems he's doing some driving for the summer. For the miscellaneous, that's $100 that he's putting in there, and we're copying that, and he's doing that for the rest of the year. Okay, so the figures are pretty much in. You're going to save this file as Bob Gleeman Budget. Bob Gleeman Budget. That's the name of the file. So we're going to save that. And let's move forward. We're going to calculate a sum. We're going to calculate a sum. Now, had you done calculations with a calculator, you'd probably pull up that calculator. Pull up my calculator and would have gone ahead and punched in what? 1,000.29 plus 4,000.75, and you've got 4,000. Actually, that figure is a little off. 1,000.29 plus 4,000.75. Right, so that's the figure, it's right. $5,001.04. Now, taking that out the calculator to put it into the Excel worksheet in cell B6 would be strangely ridiculous because the Excel software is going to calculate this for us. Now, we could have done several things. So we're skipping the calculator. We don't need it because Excel is going to do it for us. We could do the calculation kind of like this. Type equal and then put 1,000.29 plus 4,000.75. You still get the right answer. But the thing is, why are we wasting time putting numbers? If you look up at the formula bar, you'll see it. Why are we wasting time putting numbers into the system? When Excel is such a powerful tool, we don't even have to put the numbers. We can put the cell reference. You know what cell reference is? Every cell has a unique address, which is called a cell reference, and its coordinates of the intersection of a column and a row. And so this cell here is B6, and we know that because B6 is sitting in the name box, that's one. And it's an active cell because you see the shading over the column letter, and you see the shading over the row number. So because we can call cell references instead, I'm going to switch up this formula and we can actually say equal B6, not B6, B4, which is what contains the 1029, plus B5, which contains the dividends, and it will give us that same $5,001.04. But let's make it easy on us. Let's let the software do all of that for us. How does the software do this? On your home tab, there is the auto sum button. And when you click it, the software is going to assume that you need to add or sum, which is the sum function that you're seeing here, whatever is in B4 to B5. I'm going to press enter, and we're going to let the software um, we're going to let the software fill in the rest of the formulas because we don't need to be doing every single one individually across. That same fill handle that you use to generate the series is the same fill handle that will allow you to copy a formula from one cell and paste it in the others. Wonderful. So let's get a total in cell B17 now. Similar process, auto sum button. And you notice it's picking up the cells that will be needed in the calculation. And we're going to hit enter and use that same fill handle and fill in the rest of the totals. Now we can get totals in one go if we wanted to without having to use the fill handle. Let's do that for these totals in column N. You can select, and notice your mouse pointer is a big white plus sign. You can highlight N4 to N6, use the auto sum button there, and similarly go down to N9 to N17 and use the auto sum button there. Now we have one last calculation to do. We want to calculate the net, and the net here represents subtracting from the total expenses, which is $5,001.04, the value here in the total, subtracting from the total income, which is $5,001.04, that's income. Subtracting from it 3,155.68, which is the total of the expenses. And in our formula, we have to type an equal sign in order for Excel to recognize that it is a formula. Without it, it's just going to be sitting there as any other label. So type equal, and you don't even have to type the cell reference. You can actually go up and click B6, but you have to type the operator though, the arithmetic operator. So in this case, it's the dash, which represents our subtraction. And you can go down and click on B17. And so your formula now reads equal B6 minus B17. And notice it's color coded too, blue for the B6 and red for the B17. And when you hit enter, the resulting value, 1,845.36, is the total of the net. Now we want a net for all of them, so yes, that fill handle is going to come in handy again. Copy the formula you used just now across to all of the items in the rest of the row 19. I'm going to save the changes made so far. Now the worksheet is pretty much complete, except it's not very easy to read, so we're going to do a little formatting to it. The first thing we're going to do is the title, personal budget worksheet. We're going to apply what's called a cell style to it. And here's the cell styles button. All of this is on the home tab. Cell styles, and we're going to apply title. And that did three things. The size of the font was changed to 18. The font style was Calibri Light, and it has a blue-gray color now. That's the color that the title cell style comes with. Now, had we not done that, which is the easy way, and we had to do it the hard way, you would probably go in and do something like this. So for A2, you're going to change the font style to Cambria, C-A-M, Cambria. You're going to change the size of the font to 14, and you're going to indicate a bold font. Now for both A1 and A2, we're going to change the font color to this blue accent one. To make the worksheet even easier to read, we're going to use this feature called merging and centering. Now merging allows you to create one large long cell out of several different cells. So we want to merge everything from A1 to N1 into one long cell, and the item sitting in there, personal budget worksheet, will become centered. So here's the merge and center button. You click on it, you'll notice the one long cell. Look it closely and you would notice that there are no grid lines. And yes, these lines that you're seeing on your worksheet are grid lines. They're there to help guide you. You can actually remove them if you wanted to. If you go to the View tab and check the grid lines button, they can come off. But let's keep them because it becomes difficult to see where you want to navigate to. Now we've merged and centered a personal budget worksheet, which is the title. We have to do a similar thing for A2 to N2. Back to the Home tab here, merge and center. Now let's keep going. Let's get the worksheet looking even better now. From A3 to N3, we're going to the Cell Styles button, and we're using the heading 1 cell style. And you'll notice what it does. Text is a little darker and thicker, and the size of the font changes, and there's that blue line under it. Do a similar thing for A8 to N8. Cell Styles button, heading 1. Now certain rows, the total rows, need a different style. So let's highlight A6 to N6. Hold down your control key, then go down and select A17 to N17. Both these rows are going to get a cell style of total. That last row, row number 19 here, A19 to N19, let's go back, A19 to N19, that will get a cell style of accent 1. Now, the figures on this worksheet need a little help. Not easy to read the figures. You know why? It's great to have that comma that separates the thousandth place. And so we're going to put some dollar signs where dollar signs belong. We still have some formatting to do, but let's put the dollar signs in. Highlight B4 to N4, hold down the control key, and highlight B6 to N6. Keep going down to B9 to N9. Still going further down, B17 to N17, and include that row with the net, B19 to N19. Here's a nice button here in the number group of the Home tab called the Accounting Number Format. It will put in the dollar symbol, widen the cells a little bit, including the comma that separates the thousand place, and any additional decimal place will be put in. Now for the remaining numbers that don't need dollar signs, and the reason for dollar signs in the first row only is to make you, the reader, who's reading this worksheet, know that the figures from here down are pretty much dollar figures, and they do the same thing for the total row to remind the person reading this that yes, these are indeed dollar figures. The items that we did not put any dollar signs on, which are B5 to N5, you're going to hold your control key and select B10 and go all the way across and down and all the way across to N16. All of these items will get a different style, a comma style. Look closely and you'll see a little comma there beside the percent symbol. When you click the comma style, you will put in the separating comma for the thousand place. Any additional decimal places are put in, and notice the zeros became dashes. And look closer down in the net row. When we did apply the accounting number format, the negatives, which once had the dash for the negative, now have brackets instead. Now we're still formatting. Now the worksheet is going to have what's termed as a banded row effect in terms of color coding. So we're going to put a different shade of blue for certain rows and a darker shade for another set of rows. So here goes. So if you're using the cell styles button, A4 to N4, hold down your control key and go to row number 9 and select rent. Skip row 10, go down to 11 and highlight the row with tuition. Skip row 12, go down to 13, highlight the row with entertainment. Skip 14 and go to 15 and highlight the row with gas. And so you have about 5 rows selected there. Go to the cell styles button and select 20% accent 1, which is the blue one. So for the rest of these rows that did not get that particular shading, we're highlighting A5 to N5, hold down the control key, and go and highlight row number 10, which we left out, which has food in it, row 12, which is the row with the books, row 14, and row 16. And for this set, cell styles, 40% accent 1. Now looking at the worksheet now, you'll see the banded row effect that I was referring to. So we're going to save the changes here. Let's keep going. Now some columns need some adjustments. Certain columns like column A, for example, and column J, K, and L need some widening. You know why? We can't see pretty much what the rest of these items are. So here's a quick way to do so. Point your mouse between column A and B, the boundary that separates them, and you'll notice your mouse pointer becomes this black double arrow. Double click your mouse when you see that black double arrow, and the software will adjust the cell to the widest item in the cell. So here, entertainment is the longest item. The software adjusts to the word entertainment. Let's do B, C, D, E, all the way down to N. And to do that, you're pointing at column B. You notice that black arrow pointing downwards. When you click there, you're free to go across with your mouse. I'm dragging, right? Go across with your mouse to column N and do a similar thing. Double click. Doesn't matter where you double click, it's going to affect them all. All of them will have some adjustment done automatically to them. I'm going to save the changes I've made so far. And we're going to come across putting in a chart. But before we get the chart in, here's a little thing that they want you to know. That name box that shows the name of the cell, you can actually use it to get to a cell location by typing it in the name box. So if I wanted to get to cell P33 and I type it in and I hit enter, it should jump to P33. Here's the P33 down on the worksheet here. So that's what your name box can also do for you. Just type it in, hit enter, and it will take you there. Now to the chart. Excel has a collection of about 10 different chart types. Things like scattered charts and bar graphs and line charts, you name it, they've got it. Now we want to represent some of our data in the form of a chart, and it's really easy for you to look at a chart in a glimpse and see what the data represents. So the chart we're creating is going to be representing the expenses from A9 to A16. Hold down your control key and go across to the totals that correspond with those, which are N9 to N16. When you go to the Insert tab and go to the Charts button, we're going to click on the 3D pie chart, and this is what it looks like. Now we do have to give this chart a title, so double click where it says chart title and highlights what's in there, and the chart title should say monthly expenses. Now the only thing is we can tell what the wedges represent, but we can't tell the value per se. I can point to it and see that there is a value. This one represents 27%. And this one represents 20%, but I can't look at the chart right off and say, okay, this is the biggest wedge. So we're going to change the style of the chart, and here's the style. Chart styles button, looks like a paintbrush, is hanging on to the side of the chart. Let's click on that, and we're going to choose style number 3. Now you can see up front what the percentages are. You can look at the different styles and see what they do. Right, so here's style number 3. Now this section called the legend or key, as some may refer to it, is pretty much what represents what the color codes are. Now the only thing is I'm going to click this button, so it's going to hide that. The chart is blocking our data. We need to move this chart, so we can either move it out of the way by dragging it, that's possible, or we can move the whole chart so it becomes a chart on a sheet by itself. Now, because you're working on the chart, you have the Chart Tools Design and Format tab. So on the Chart Tools Design tab, you're going to click on the Move Chart button, select New Sheet, and give this the name Monthly Expenses, and click on OK. It should move to a chart, the chart to a sheet by itself. So here's monthly expenses, and sheet 1 now is the data itself. We will be renaming this shortly. So let's look back at the chart. Did you know that you can actually change the color of a wedge? So if you click on the chart's wedges and you click on one of the wedges, you notice the three little circles there that represents the one piece. You have the opportunity to, and I can go on the Chart Tools Format tab this time, to fill the shape with a different color. Let's say I wanted purple here, and you can change the one piece. Did you also know that you can actually pull out a piece? So that's why we wanted to emphasize this smallest wedge, which is 5%. You can actually click it and drag it out away from the rest of the pie. Try another one and you'll see. So I'm going to put them back together again. Here's what you can do as well. You can allow the chart to explode, meaning all the pieces will be separated, not together. So here goes. There's this area just very close to the pie pieces, or the wedges as we would call them, which is called the plot area. You can click the plot area, and when you drag the pieces, it should explode the pie. So let's do that one again. So if you click close enough to the pie in the plot area, you will notice the rectangular shape hanging on around the pie wedges or pieces. And once that is selected, you can drag and explode the pie chart. And to get them back together again, you can always drag one of these pieces inwards and it will put all the pieces back together again. So there's a lot more to go in terms of playing around with the chart, but for now, for this purpose of this exercise, we're going to leave the chart as it is. Now, the sheet called Sheet 1, it needs a more meaningful name. Notice monthly expenses represents the chart. Sheet 1 here needs a new name. So you're going to click on Sheet 1, and to rename it, you either double click or right click and then click on Rename. And the name for this should be Monthly Budget Planner. Monthly Budget Planner. When you type it in, hit enter, it keeps the name. Let's go a little further in. The tabs, apart from renaming them, you can recolor them. Let me fix this here. I have monthly could be an N. Alright, right click on the chart tab, or the sheet tab I should say, and go to tab color, and you can choose orange accent 2 for the monthly budget planner tab, and you can pick any other color you choose. I'm going to put mine as let's say yellow, just for the monthly expenses. So I'm going to save the changes I've made. We're coming down to the end. Now, there's an area on your status bar that allows you to pretty much quickly give a look, get a look of some statistics that might show up if you were to select certain areas. So you can see on your status bar the average and the total and the count and so on for a selected set of cells or range of cells. So if I wanted to find out a little bit more about these sets of figures, and I'm going to highlight B19 to N19. When you look at your status bar, you see average, count, and sum. And I have max, but if you don't have max, here's how you get it. You can right click in this area select max, or I'm putting in min or minimum, maximum, minimum, and it will join the list. So what's the name of this area? It's the auto calculate area. Auto calculate. And when you highlight something, and it doesn't matter where you highlight, it's going to give you some statistics anyways. That's the auto calculate area. It gives you average, count, min, max, sum in one glimpse, just by looking at just by highlighting and looking at the data. Now, if you needed to print this worksheet and you went to File and Print, normally it would probably come out on multiple pages. If you notice, it only stops at the month of July, so I've got to go to page 2 to see from August down to December. Now, I could also have rotated the page in terms of the orientation. If I put it to landscape, it kind of fits some more in there. So you got on to August and September, but I still have to scroll to the next page to get October to December. I want everything to fit on one page. If I go to page setup, and in the scaling group, I go to fit to, and I have 1 page wide by 1 page tall, and I click on OK, it should fit in all of the data onto one sheet. Notice income all the way down to total on the one sheet. So it's page setup and fit to. Now you can even print, and here I'm going to the sheet tab, right? You can even print grid lines and row and column headings on your worksheet. So here are the row headings and the column headings, and look closely, you see the dots there representing the grid lines. Might be a little busy, but it's possible to print them. I'm going to remove them from this worksheet though. So here's the worksheet without those on it. Finally, if you needed to delete some contents in your worksheet, here's how you might go about doing it. So let's say I wanted to delete these items for the wages and the dividends. I can always hit the delete key on my keyboard, but the only thing is it left the formatting behind. Notice the banded colors are still there. Let me undo that. You can also have done right click and delete, same thing, just hitting the delete key, or come up to this clear button, looks like an eraser, and you have some options. You can clear all, which takes away both the data and the formatting that was done, or if you just click on clear formats, the data stays but the formatting, notice the banded colors are gone, and you have clear comments and clear hyperlinks. Here's something you may not have noticed or ever tried. That fill handle that you normally copy with, and you copy from left to right, if you copy in the opposite direction from right to left, you are going to delete data in your worksheet. So let's try that again. If you use your fill handle and copy towards the left, you would have deleted the contents in that section. Sometimes I do this. I copy blanks into the selection and it deletes. Well, it's pretty much filling in blanks. Now this last option here, I'm going to point out to you, is the select all button. You notice it, or if never noticed it, look close and you see this select all button just hanging out between column A and row number 1. If you click that, you would have selected all 16,384 columns down to XFD and all 1,048,576 rows. And you are free to use any of the options to delete the contents in your worksheet. So there you have it. This is how you create the Bob Gleeman budget. You have several options that you can use your fill handle for, creating series, for copying formulas, even for deleting. So this is Excel chapter 1. Be sure to save your changes and practice what you've learned while doing this worksheet. Thank you for watching.